Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Video That Changed Everything. Master Sergeant Tyler Kozlov had seen hell in 3 tours of duty across 2 continents, but nothing prepared him for the grainy phone video that would arrive on a Tuesday evening in November. The notification pinged while he was cleaning his weapon in the barracks at Forward Operating Base Chapman in Afghanistan, just 2 weeks before his scheduled return home to Colorado. The sender was Dale Morrison, his next-door neighbor for the past 6 years. Dale was a retired police detective, a man who didn't speak unless he had something important to say. The message was brief. "Tyler, you need to see this. Call me after you watch it." Tyler's hands trembled slightly as he opened the video file. The timestamp showed it was recorded 3 days ago, during what appeared to be a heavy snowfall in his neighborhood. The camera was positioned behind Dale's kitchen window, looking across the yard toward Tyler's 2-story colonial home. At first, Tyler couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. His wife Amanda stood in the doorway, her dark hair disheveled, still wearing the silk robe he'd bought her for their anniversary 2 years ago. She was shouting at someone inside the house, her face contorted with rage in a way Tyler had never seen before. Then he saw his 9-year-old son, Lucas, emerge from the house, stumbling slightly as he was pushed through the doorway. The boy was wearing only thin pajamas and socks, no coat, no shoes. Snow was falling heavily, already several inches deep on the ground. Tyler's blood turned to ice as he watched Amanda grab Lucas by the arm and drag him further into the yard. Even through the muffled audio, her words were clear enough. "You ruined my body and my life. I should have aborted you when I had the chance." Lucas was crying, his small body already shivering violently in the frigid air. He tried to pull away, to get back to the warmth of the house, but Amanda's grip was firm. She shook him hard enough that his head snapped back and forth. "Please, Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spill the juice." Lucas's voice was barely audible over the wind, but Tyler caught every heartbreaking word. Then came the moment that would haunt Tyler forever. Amanda's mother, Patricia Hendricks, appeared in the doorway holding what looked like a glass of wine. Instead of intervening, instead of protecting her grandson, she simply stood there watching with cold indifference. "You're doing the right thing, honey," Patricia called out to her daughter. "The boy needs to learn consequences. His father isn't here to discipline him, so someone has to." Amanda left Lucas standing barefoot in the snow for what felt like an eternity before finally allowing him back inside. The video ended with Lucas limping through the door, his small feet red and raw from the cold. Tyler watched the video 3 more times, each viewing making his rage burn hotter. This wasn't discipline. This was abuse. This was his wife, the woman he'd trusted to care for their son while he served his country, torturing their child. He immediately called Dale, his voice barely controlled. "How long has this been going on?" "I don't know for sure." Dale's gruff voice came through the satellite connection. "But I've been hearing raised voices more often lately. This was the first time I actually saw what was happening. I debated whether to call the police or wait for you to come home." Any sign of... Tyler couldn't bring himself to say the name, but Dale understood. "The Camaro's been in your driveway overnight several times this month. Usually leaves early morning before the school bus comes." Brent Kozlow, Amanda's old college boyfriend, who'd resurfaced 6 months ago when Tyler deployed. Tyler had suspected something was developing, but had trusted Amanda when she assured him Brent was just helping around the house, while Tyler was overseas. "Dale, I need you to do me a favor. Keep watching. Keep recording if you can. But don't intervene unless Lucas is in immediate danger. I'm coming home, and when I do, I'm going to handle this my way." Tyler's mind was already working, calculating, planning. 20 years in special forces had taught him patience, precision, and the value of gathering intelligence before striking. He would need to know everything, every detail of what had been happening in his absence, every person involved, every weakness he could exploit. That night, Tyler began making calls. First to his commanding officer to arrange emergency leave. Then to his lawyer, Tom Bradford, a former Army Ranger who owed Tyler his life from a firefight in Kandahar 5 years earlier. Tom, I need you to prepare divorce papers. Full custody. I also need you to research child abuse laws in Colorado and what kind of evidence I'll need for criminal charges. Tyler, what's going on? War's come home, brother. And I'm going to finish it. The next call was to his older brother Marcus, a private investigator in Denver who specialized in surveillance and background checks for high-profile divorces. Mark, I need everything you can dig up on Amanda and her mother Patricia. Financial records, communications, any legal troubles. Also, run a full background on Brent Coslow, Amanda's college boyfriend. I have a feeling there's more to his story. How deep do you want me to go? Ocean floor deep. I want to know what they had for breakfast last Tuesday. Tyler's final call that night was to someone he'd hoped never to contact again. Vincent Torino ran a private security company in Las Vegas, staffed entirely by former special operations personnel. Vincent's services operated in the gray areas between legal and illegal, and his methods were as effective as they were questionable. Tyler fucking Kozlov, heard you were still playing soldier in the sandbox. I need a consultation, Vinny, the kind that requires your special touch. Someone needs to disappear, not disappear, destroyed, completely and utterly ruined. But I want them alive to suffer through every second of it. Vincent's laugh was cold as winter wind. That's my specialty. When do you need me? I'll land in Denver in 4 days. After that, we plan. Then we execute. Tyler spent his remaining nights in Afghanistan meticulously planning his return. He studied every detail of the video, memorizing the layout of his yard, the positioning of windows, the sight lines from neighboring houses. He analyzed Amanda's body language, her expression, her words. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was calculated cruelty toward an innocent child. By the time Tyler boarded the transport plane that would take him home, he had transformed from soldier into something far more dangerous. A father with nothing left to lose and the skills to make his enemies pay for every tear his son had shed. The war in Afghanistan was over for Tyler Kozlov. The war for his son's future was just beginning. Chapter 2. Intelligence Gathering. Tyler's return to Colorado Springs was deliberately low-key. Instead of going straight home, he checked into a modest motel 15 miles away under a false name, a skill Vincent had taught him years ago. He needed time to observe, to gather intelligence, to understand exactly what his family had become in his absence. Marcus met him at the motel that evening, carrying 2 thick folders and wearing the grim expression Tyler remembered from their childhood when someone had crossed one of the Kozlov brothers. "You're not going to like what I found," Marcus said, settling into the room's single chair while Tyler remained standing, his military bearing unchanged even in civilian clothes. Start with Amanda. Marcus opened the first folder. Your wife has been busy. Bank records show she's been withdrawing cash regularly. Small amounts, but frequent. 300 here, 500 there. Adds up to about 4,000 over the past 2 months. Untraceable spending money. Gets better. I tracked her cell phone records. Hundreds of texts and calls to Brent Coslow, but also to several numbers I couldn't immediately identify. So I dug deeper. Marcus pulled out a series of photographs. Tyler's jaw clenched as he recognized his wife in various restaurants and bars around the city, always with Brent, but sometimes with other people Tyler didn't recognize. The woman in the red dress is Kelly Vasquez. She runs an upscale escort service that caters to married women looking for excitement. The man in the expensive suit is Dr. Richard Frost, a plastic surgeon who's been sued twice for performing procedures without proper consent. Tyler studied the photos. Amanda looked different, thinner, her clothes more revealing, her smile artificial. She's planning something. There's more. I found out why Patricia's been so supportive of Amanda's behavior. Your mother-in-law has a gambling problem. Bad one. She owes $43,000 to some very unpleasant people in Las Vegas. Guess who's been making payments on that debt? Brent. Every month like clockwork. But here's the interesting part. Brent doesn't have that kind of money. At least, not from any legitimate source I can trace. Marcus opened the second folder, revealing surveillance photos of Brent Coslow. Tyler barely recognized the man Amanda had dated briefly in college. Brent had always been soft, unremarkable. The man in these photos was different. Expensive clothes, expensive car, expensive watch. Brent's been living well above his means for someone who supposedly works as a freelance marketing consultant. No legitimate business licenses, no major clients I can identify, but plenty of cash flow. Vincent's people did some digging on the Vegas end. Tyler's phone buzzed with a text from Vincent. Your boy Brent's been running a sophisticated catfishing operation. Targets military wives, builds emotional connections while their husbands are deployed, then blackmails them with intimate photos and videos. Very profitable. The pieces were falling into place. Tyler could see the full picture now. Amanda hadn't just fallen for an old flame. She'd been targeted, manipulated, and was now trapped in Brent's web. But instead of being a victim, she'd chosen to become a willing participant, even at the cost of abusing their son. There's one more thing, Marcus said quietly. I found records of Amanda visiting Dr. Frost's office 6 times in the past month. She's scheduled for a procedure next week, something called reconstructive surgery. The consultation notes mention restoring pre-pregnancy condition. Tyler's hands clenched into fists. The implication was clear. Amanda was planning to erase all physical evidence of Lucas's birth, as if their son had never existed. That evening, Tyler conducted his own surveillance. He parked 3 blocks from his house and walked through the neighborhood he'd called home for 6 years, noting every detail that had changed. Dale Morrison spotted him first, crossing the street with the purposeful stride of a man who'd been waiting for this moment. Tyler, damn glad you're back. How's Lucas? Dale's weathered face darkened. Quiet. Too quiet for a 9-year-old boy. He gets off the school bus, goes straight inside. Doesn't come out to play anymore. Haven't seen him smile once since you left. Anyone else seen what's happening? A couple of the neighbors have noticed things, but nobody wants to get involved. The Hendersons moved out last month, said they couldn't stand listening to the shouting anymore. Tyler spent 2 hours walking the perimeter of his property, identifying sight lines, escape routes, and potential surveillance positions. His house, once a symbol of the American dream he'd fought to protect, now felt like enemy territory. At midnight, Tyler was positioned in the tree line behind his house when Brent's red Camaro pulled into the driveway. Tyler watched through night vision binoculars as his wife ran out to greet her lover, throwing herself into his arms with an enthusiasm she'd never shown Tyler. They disappeared inside, and Tyler fought every instinct telling him to storm in and end this immediately. But patience was a weapon, and Tyler had learned to wield it with surgical precision. An hour later, Tyler's phone vibrated with a message from Dale. Boys crying again. 3rd night this week. Through his binoculars, Tyler could see Lucas's bedroom window on the 2nd floor. A faint light was visible, probably his son hiding under the covers with a flashlight, trying to find comfort in books while his mother entertained her lover downstairs. Tyler made a decision that would haunt him forever. He climbed the old oak tree that bordered his property and positioned himself outside Lucas's window. The boy was indeed reading under the covers, but Tyler could see the tear stains on his cheeks, the way his small body flinched at every sound from below. Tyler tapped gently on the window. Lucas looked up, terrified at first. Then his eyes widened in disbelief. "Daddy," he whispered. Tyler held a finger to his lips, then pointed to the window latch. Lucas understood immediately, quietly opening the window, just enough for them to whisper. "I'm here, buddy. Daddy's home. But Mom said you weren't coming back for weeks." She said. Lucas's voice broke. "She said you might not come back at all. I'm here now, and I'm never leaving you again. But I need you to be brave for a little while longer. Can you do that for me?" Lucas nodded solemnly, far too mature for his 9 years. "I need you to pretend you never saw me tonight. Don't tell anyone. And if anyone hurts you again, you have this." Tyler handed Lucas a small device through the window. "It's a panic button. You press it, and I'll know you need help immediately." "Are you going to fix everything, Daddy?" Tyler looked into his son's eyes that had seen too much, suffered too much in his absence. "Yes, son. Daddy's going to fix everything." The next morning, Tyler returned to his surveillance position just as the school bus arrived. He watched Lucas walk to the curb, his backpack heavy, his shoulders slumped. The boy looked back at the house once before boarding the bus, and Tyler saw something in his son's expression that crystallized his resolve. Hope. Lucas believed his father would save him, and Tyler would burn down the world before he'd let that belief prove false. That afternoon, Tyler met with Vincent Torino at a discreet restaurant in downtown Denver. Vincent looked exactly as Tyler remembered. Expensive suit, predatory smile, eyes that had seen too much violence to ever be completely civilized. "So what's the play?" Vincent asked after Tyler laid out the situation. "I want them destroyed. Not killed, that's too easy. I want them to live with the consequences of what they've done. I want them to understand that crossing Tyler Kozlov was the worst mistake of their pathetic lives. Brent's the easier target. His whole operation depends on staying under the radar. A few strategic moves, and I can have the FBI crawling up his ass by Friday." "No, too quick. I want something more personal." Vincent's grin widened. "You always were a vindictive bastard. I like it. What about the wife? Amanda chose her side when she put her hands on my son. She's going to learn that some choices have permanent consequences. And the mother-in-law?" Tyler's expression went completely cold. "Patricia Hendricks handed her daughter a drink and told her she was doing the right thing while my son stood barefoot in the snow. She's going to pay for every second of his suffering." Vincent leaned back in his chair, studying Tyler like a chess player contemplating his next move. "This is going to be expensive. And messy. I don't care about expensive. As for messy," Tyler's smile was winter cold. "They started this war when they hurt my boy. I'm just going to finish it." Chapter 3. The Trap Begins. Lucas was the key to everything. Tyler realized that any plan for revenge had to begin with getting his son to safety, both physical and legal. The boy was the only innocent in this mess, and Tyler would not allow his quest for justice to cause Lucas any more pain. Tyler spent the next week conducting careful surveillance while maintaining the fiction that he was still in Afghanistan. Amanda had no idea he was home, which gave him the perfect opportunity to document her behavior and build an airtight case for full custody. Working with Marcus and a team of private investigators, Tyler gathered evidence methodically. Hidden cameras captured Amanda's verbal abuse, her neglect, and her increasingly erratic behavior as she spiraled deeper into Brent's web of manipulation. The evidence was damning. Amanda leaving Lucas alone for hours while she met with Brent, screaming at the boy for minor infractions, and worst of all, threatening him when he asked when his father was coming home. But Tyler needed more than evidence of abuse. He needed Amanda to reveal her true intentions, to expose the depth of her betrayal in a way that would strip away any sympathy a family court judge might have for her. The opportunity came when Tyler learned about Amanda's scheduled surgery with Dr. Frost. Through Vincent's contacts, Tyler discovered that Amanda wasn't just planning reconstructive surgery. She was planning to completely reinvent herself. New face, new body, new identity documents that Vincent's people had helped her acquire. Amanda was planning to disappear with Brent, leaving Lucas behind. Tyler felt something cold and final settle in his chest when he learned this. Whatever love he'd once felt for Amanda died in that moment, replaced by something far more dangerous: absolute clarity of purpose. The trap Tyler designed was elegant in its simplicity. Using his connections in military intelligence, Tyler created a false identity as a wealthy defense contractor looking to relocate his family to a small town where Brent could start fresh with his new consulting business. Vincent's people made contact with Brent through intermediaries, dangling the promise of a $2 million contract for marketing services. Brent took the bait immediately. His greed, combined with his arrogance, made him the perfect mark. Within days, he was planning to move Amanda and himself to Montana, where their new life would begin just as soon as Amanda's surgery was complete. But Tyler had no intention of letting them leave Colorado. Instead, he would use their escape plan to expose them publicly and ensure they face consequences for every crime they'd committed. The first phase of Tyler's revenge began on a Tuesday morning when Lucas was safely at school. Tyler, using his false identity, arranged to meet Brent at an upscale restaurant to discuss the Montana opportunity. Unknown to Brent, every word would be recorded, and several of Vincent's people would be positioned throughout the restaurant to ensure nothing went wrong. Brent arrived exactly on time, dressed in an expensive suit that Tyler now knew was purchased with money stolen from military wives. Tyler barely contained his rage as he shook hands with the man who had destroyed his family. "Mr. Davidson," Brent said, using Tyler's false name. "I have to say, your offer sounds too good to be true." "Good things come to those who position themselves correctly," Tyler replied, studying Brent's body language. The man was nervous but trying to project confidence. "I understand you have experience working with military families?" Brent's smile faltered slightly. "Some experience, yes. It's a specialized market." "Indeed. Loyalty is so important in that community. I imagine trust is everything." "Absolutely. You have to understand their unique vulnerabilities." Tyler felt his jaw clench at the casual way Brent discussed exploiting military families, but he maintained his cover. "My research indicates you've been quite successful in Colorado. Several satisfied clients, I'm told. Very satisfied. In fact, I'm helping one family right now transition to a new chapter in their lives. The husband has been overseas, and sometimes absence makes people realize what they really want. How fortunate for them to have your guidance." Tyler spent 2 hours drawing information from Brent, learning details about his operation that would eventually be turned over to federal investigators. But more importantly, Tyler learned about Brent's plans for Amanda and his complete disregard for Lucas's welfare. "The kid's not really part of the equation," Brent said when Tyler asked about Amanda's family situation. "Amanda's made it clear she wants a fresh start. Kids can be complicated. What about the father? Won't he object to his child being relocated?" Brent's laugh was ugly. "Military guys like that, they're all the same. They think they're heroes, but they're just suckers fighting someone else's war while their real lives fall apart at home. By the time he figures out what happened, we'll be long gone." Tyler excused himself to the bathroom, where he spent 5 minutes staring at his reflection in the mirror, fighting the urge to return to the table and snap Brent's neck. Instead, he returned and concluded the meeting with promises to finalize their arrangement within the week. That evening, Tyler finally made contact with Lucas directly. He waited until Amanda left the house, another meeting with Brent at a hotel across town, then used his key to enter his own home for the first time in months. Lucas was in his room doing homework when Tyler appeared in the doorway. The boy looked up, and for a moment Tyler saw the fear that had become his son's default expression. Then recognition dawned, and Lucas launched himself into Tyler's arms with a sob that broke his father's heart. "Daddy, you're really here." "I'm here, buddy. I'm here, and I'm never leaving you again." Tyler held his son while Lucas cried out months of fear, loneliness, and confusion. When the tears finally stopped, Tyler sat on the bed and looked directly into his son's eyes. "Lucas, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What's been happening to you is not your fault. None of it. Do you understand?" Lucas nodded, but Tyler could see the doubt in his young face. "Your mother is sick, buddy. She's not thinking clearly, and she's been saying and doing things that are wrong. But that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Is she going to get better?" Tyler chose his words carefully. Sometimes when people get sick like this, they have to go away for a while to get help. But you're going to be safe. I promise you that. Are you really staying home now? Yes. And I'm going to make sure you never have to be afraid again. Tyler spent an hour with Lucas, reading together, talking about school, trying to restore some normalcy to his son's life. When they heard Amanda's car in the driveway, Tyler slipped out through the back door, but not before giving Lucas the most important instruction of all. "Remember what I told you about pretending you never saw me? That's still important. But if anyone asks you about what's been happening here, you tell them the truth. Every bit of it. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir." "Good boy. I love you, Lucas." "I love you too, Daddy." The next phase of Tyler's plan required perfect timing. Amanda's surgery was scheduled for Friday morning, which meant she would be under anesthesia and unable to communicate for several hours. During that window, Tyler would execute the most critical part of his revenge, ensuring that both Amanda and Brent were exactly where he wanted them when the trap finally closed. Thursday night, Tyler received confirmation from Vincent that everything was in place. Federal investigators were ready to move on Brent's operation. Child Protective Services had reviewed the evidence against Amanda and were prepared to remove Lucas from her custody immediately. Tyler's divorce attorney had filed papers that would freeze all of Amanda's assets and prevent her from leaving Colorado. Most importantly, Tyler had arranged for Lucas to be picked up from school Friday afternoon by Tyler's sister Jennifer, who lived in Denver and had already been briefed on the situation. Lucas would be safe and far away when the consequences of his mother's choices finally caught up with her. Friday morning arrived gray and cold, much like the day captured in Dale's video months earlier. Tyler positioned himself across from Dr. Frost's office, watching as Amanda entered the building for what she believed would be the final step in her escape plan. She had no idea that Tyler had spent the night systematically destroying every aspect of the new life she tried to build with Brent. Her surgery would proceed as scheduled, but she would wake up to a very different world than the one she'd expected. Tyler's phone buzzed with a message from Vincent. "Federal agents are moving on your boy Brent in 10 minutes. You sure you don't want to be there to watch?" Tyler typed back, "I'll have better seats for the main event." The main event would be Amanda's awakening. When she discovered that her lover was in federal custody, her mother was facing her own reckoning, and her son was beyond her reach forever. But first, Tyler had one more stop to make. Patricia Hendricks was about to learn that some sins demand immediate payment, and Tyler Kozlov was an excellent debt collector. Chapter 4: The Mother-in-Law's Reckoning. Patricia Hendricks lived in a modest ranch house 20 minutes from Tyler's neighborhood, in a development filled with retirees and empty nesters. Tyler had always found her home pretentious, everything designed to project an image of comfortable middle-class respectability that he now knew was built on gambling debts and moral bankruptcy. Tyler parked across the street and observed the house for 30 minutes before making his move. Patricia's routine was predictable: morning coffee on the front porch while reading the newspaper, followed by her daily trip to the grocery store. Today would be different. At exactly 9:47 a.m., Tyler knocked on Patricia's front door. When she opened it, her face cycled through surprise, confusion, and finally fear as she realized what Tyler's presence meant. "Tyler? I thought you were still in Afghanistan?" Interesting assumption, Patricia. Almost like you had reasons to hope I'd stay away. Patricia's hand moved toward her phone, but Tyler stepped forward with the measured confidence of a man who had kicked down doors in 3 different countries. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. We have quite a lot to discuss, and I'd hate for our conversation to be interrupted." Tyler had no intention of physically harming a 67-year-old woman, but Patricia didn't know that. Her fear was a tool, and Tyler had learned long ago that psychological pressure was often more effective than physical force. "What do you want?" Patricia's voice was shaky, uncertain. "I want to understand how a grandmother could watch her daughter abuse a 9-year-old child and encourage it. I want to know how someone who supposedly loves her family could hand her daughter a drink and tell her she was doing the right thing while her grandson stood barefoot in the snow." Patricia's face went white. She hadn't known about the video. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tyler pulled out his phone and played the video. Patricia watched in growing horror as her own voice came through the speakers. "We're doing the right thing, honey. The boy needs to learn consequences." That's... Patricia struggled for words. "That's taken out of context. You don't understand the situation. Then explain it to me. Explain how watching a child being abused is ever the right thing." Patricia sank into a chair, her composure cracking. "Lucas has been difficult lately, acting out, defying Amanda. She's been under so much stress with you gone, trying to manage everything alone." "Difficult how? What terrible crimes did my 9-year-old son commit that justified dragging him barefoot into the snow?" He spilled juice on some important papers. "Amanda had been working all day, and Lucas was being careless, not listening." Tyler felt his control slipping, but managed to keep his voice level. "So for spilling juice, my son deserved to be verbally abused and forced to stand in freezing weather until his feet were raw. It wasn't like that. Amanda was just, she lost her temper. It happens. It happens. Patricia, I've seen enemy combatants show more mercy to their prisoners than your daughter showed to my son." Tyler moved closer, and Patricia shrank back in her chair. But that's not why I'm here. See, I know about your gambling problem. I know about the $43,000 you owe to some very dangerous people in Las Vegas. I know Brent has been making your payments. Patricia's eyes went wide. How do you? I know a lot of things, Patricia. I know you encouraged Amanda's relationship with Brent because it kept your creditors off your back. I know you've been helping them plan their escape to Montana. And I know you were perfectly willing to let them abandon Lucas to protect your own skin. That's not true. I love that boy. Love. Tyler's voice was deadly quiet. You call what I saw in that video love? You stood there with a drink in your hand and watched my son suffer, then told his abuser she was doing the right thing. That's not love, Patricia. That's evil. Tyler pulled out a folder and dropped it on the coffee table in front of her. These are copies of your financial records, your communications with Brent, and statements from witnesses who've seen you encourage Amanda's behavior. Tomorrow morning, Child Protective Services will receive a full report detailing your role in the abuse of your grandson. Patricia fumbled through the papers, her face growing paler with each page. Tyler, please. I made mistakes, but I was trying to help Amanda cope with. Cope? By torturing a child. It wasn't torture. You're being dramatic. Tyler pulled out his phone again and called a number. After a moment, a gruff voice answered. Detective Morrison. Dale, it's Tyler. Would you mind coming over to Patricia Hendricks' house? I think she'd like to hear your perspective on what we saw that night. Patricia looked confused until Tyler explained. Patricia, meet Dale Morrison. He's the retired police detective who lives next door to me. He's the one who recorded your daughter abusing my son. He's also the one who'll be testifying about what he witnessed. 20 minutes later, Dale arrived and confirmed every detail of what they'd observed. He'd also brought additional footage. Apparently, the night Tyler had seen was not the first time Amanda had dragged Lucas outside as punishment. I've got recordings of her screaming at that boy going back 6 weeks. Dale said, his disgust evident. Audio only mostly, but enough to document a pattern of abuse. And every time, this woman here was in the house. Never once did she intervene or try to protect the child. Patricia was crying now, but Tyler felt no sympathy. His son had cried too, and no one had comforted him. Here's what's going to happen, Patricia. Those gambling debts you're so worried about, they're about to become the least of your problems. I've arranged for the Las Vegas creditors to be fully paid off as of this morning. Patricia looked up in confusion and hope. Don't get excited. I didn't pay them to help you. I paid them so they'd have no reason to be interested in you anymore. See, I needed to remove any financial incentive they might have to keep you safe. Tyler's smile was cold as winter. I've also made sure certain people in Las Vegas know exactly why those debts were paid off. Turns out, some of those casino owners have grandchildren of their own. They have very strong feelings about people who hurt kids. Patricia's face went white as she understood the implication. Tyler, you can't. I can and I have. But don't worry, Patricia. I'm not a monster like you and your daughter. I'm giving you a choice. Tyler stood and walked to the window, looking out at the neighborhood where Patricia had lived peacefully for 15 years while harboring such darkness in her heart. Choice 1. You sign a full confession detailing your role in enabling Amanda's abuse of Lucas. You testify against her in family court and criminal proceedings. You make a public statement acknowledging what you did and asking for the community's forgiveness. And choice 2. Tyler turned back to face her, and Patricia saw something in his eyes that made her blood freeze. Choice 2 is you face the consequences of your actions without any protection from me. The Las Vegas people I mentioned, they're very creative when they feel someone has betrayed the natural order of things. Child abuse upsets the natural order. Patricia, you're threatening me. I'm offering you a chance to do the right thing. Finally, after months of doing the wrong thing, Patricia sat in silence for several minutes, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Finally, she spoke in a broken voice. If I confess, if I testify against Amanda, what happens to me? You'll face legal consequences for your role in the abuse. Probably probation, maybe some jail time, definitely community service. You'll lose your standing in the community. People will know what kind of person you really are. Tyler paused, letting that sink in. But you'll be alive. And maybe if you spend the rest of your life trying to make amends, you might find some peace. And if I don't, then you'll discover that protecting child abusers is a very dangerous hobby, especially when the child's father has the resources and motivation to make life extremely unpleasant for those who hurt his family. Patricia understood she was trapped. Her own choices had led her to this moment, and now she faced the consequences of enabling evil while protecting her own interests. "I'll sign a confession." Tyler nodded and pulled out a prepared document. As Patricia read through her own crimes detailed in legal language, Tyler felt a satisfaction that was cold and complete. One down, two to go. But even as Patricia signed away her freedom and reputation, Tyler's mind was already on the next phase. Amanda would be waking up from surgery soon, and when she did, she would discover that the new life she'd tried to build was nothing but smoke and mirrors. The real reckoning was just beginning. Chapter 5. The Surgeon Surprise. Dr. Richard Frost's medical practice occupied the top floor of a gleaming medical complex in downtown Colorado Springs. Tyler had spent considerable time researching the doctor, and what he'd found was deeply disturbing. Frost had a history of performing unnecessary procedures on vulnerable women, often at the suggestion of their romantic partners who promised to pay for expensive surgeries. Amanda was scheduled to come out of anesthesia at 2:15 p.m. Tyler planned to be there when she did, but first he had business with Dr. Frost himself. Tyler arrived at the medical office at 1:30 p.m., wearing a perfectly tailored suit and carrying a briefcase that identified him as Jonathan Mitchell, investigative journalist for the Denver Post. Vincent's people had created the identity specifically for this meeting, complete with business cards, press credentials, and a fake portfolio of investigative articles about medical malpractice. The receptionist was initially reluctant to interrupt Dr. Frost's schedule, but when Tyler mentioned he was investigating unethical cosmetic procedures performed without proper patient consent, she quickly ushered him into Frost's private office. Dr. Frost was a thin, nervous man in his 50s with the kind of practice smile that never reached his eyes. Tyler recognized him immediately from the surveillance photos. This was the man who had been planning to help Amanda erase all physical evidence of Lucas's birth. "Mr. Mitchell, I have to say this is highly unusual. I'm not sure what kind of investigation you think you're conducting, but I can assure you my practice operates at the highest ethical standards." Tyler opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Dr. Frost, I'm investigating a pattern of cosmetic surgeries performed on women who appear to be under psychological duress. Women whose procedures are being paid for by men who aren't their husbands." Frost's smile faltered. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything, doctor. I'm stating facts." Tyler pulled out Amanda's file, which Vincent's people had obtained through less than legal means. Amanda Kozlov. Extensive reconstructive surgery designed to restore pre-pregnancy condition. Procedure paid for in cash by someone named Brent Kozlow, who is not her husband. Patient confidentiality prevents me from discussing. Patient confidentiality doesn't protect you when you're enabling child abandonment, doctor. Tyler's voice went hard. "See, Amanda Kozlov is planning to use your surgery as part of a scheme to abandon her 9-year-old son and disappear with her lover." Frost stood up, agitated. "I don't know anything about that. I provide medical services, nothing more." "Really?" "Because I have recordings of consultations where you specifically discussed how the surgery would help Amanda start fresh and leave the past behind." Curious language for a routine medical procedure. Tyler played an audio recording on his phone. Frost's voice was clearly audible, discussing how the surgery would help Amanda become the woman she was meant to be, and how sometimes we have to leave certain chapters of our lives behind to find happiness. Frost's face went white as he heard his own words played back to him. "Where did you get that?" "I told you, doctor. I'm an investigative journalist. It's amazing what people will say when they think they're safe." Tyler leaned forward. "But here's the really interesting part. I know about your other patients, too. Melissa Crawford, whose husband was deployed in Iraq when you performed surgery she never requested. Jennifer Walsh, who came to you for a consultation and left with procedures she couldn't afford, paid for by a man who'd been manipulating her online." Tyler pulled out more files, each one documenting cases where Dr. Frost had performed surgeries on women who appear to be under psychological manipulation. I'm thinking there's a pattern here, Doctor. A very ugly pattern. Dr. Frost sank back into his chair, his confident demeanor cracking. You don't understand. These women came to me asking for help. I provided medical services. Help? Or did you provide a way for predators to erase evidence of their victims' previous lives? Did you provide a way for women to abandon their children and disappear? I never. I didn't ask what they planned to do after the surgery. You didn't ask because you didn't want to know, because knowing would have made you complicit in something even you couldn't rationalize. Tyler stood and walked to the window overlooking the parking lot. Amanda's car was just pulling in for her post-surgery follow-up appointment. Dr. Frost, I want you to know that Amanda Kozlov's husband is Master Sergeant Tyler Kozlov, currently on emergency leave from Afghanistan. He's a decorated Special Forces operator who spent the last 20 years defending this country. Tyler turned back to face the doctor. He has no idea his wife was planning to abandon their son and disappear. But he's about to find out because I'm going to tell him. And then I'm going to ask him what he thinks should happen to the people who helped his wife plan to abandon his child. Frost was sweating now. What do you want from me? I want you to call Amanda Kozlov and tell her that her surgery was unsuccessful. Tell her there were complications, that you need to keep her under observation for several more hours. I can't do that. It would be lying to a patient. Doctor, Amanda Kozlov is planning to use your surgery to abandon her 9-year-old son. She's planning to disappear and leave that child wondering why his mother stopped loving him. If you think lying to her is worse than enabling child abandonment, then you're an even more despicable human being than I thought. Tyler pulled out his phone and showed Frost the video of Amanda abusing Lucas. The doctor watched in horrified silence as Amanda dragged her son barefoot into the snow. That's the woman you helped, Doctor. That's the mother who is so eager to start fresh that she was willing to torture her own child. Frost stared at the video, his face pale and sick. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. But now you do, and you have a choice. You can continue enabling child abuse, or you can do the right thing. Dr. Frost reached for his phone with a trembling hand. What exactly do you want me to tell her? Tell her the truth. Tell her that her surgery was designed to help her abandon her son, and that you can't be part of that anymore. Tell her that the police are on their way to arrest her for child abuse. Are they? Tyler smiled grimly. They will be, right after you make that call. 20 minutes later, Tyler sat in his car in the medical complex parking lot, watching as 2 Colorado Springs police officers escorted a bandaged and confused Amanda from Dr. Frost's office to a waiting patrol car. Her charges would include child abuse, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. But Tyler wasn't done yet. Amanda's arrest was just the beginning. He still had to face Brent Kozlow, the man who had orchestrated this entire nightmare. And unlike Amanda and her mother, Brent would receive no mercy, no chance for redemption. Some sins were unforgivable, and Tyler Kozlov never forgot a debt. Chapter 6, The Lover's Downfall. Brent Kozlow's arrest by federal agents had been swift and professional. His sophisticated catfishing operation, which had targeted dozens of military wives across multiple states, was now evidence in a federal investigation that would likely result in a 20-year prison sentence. But Tyler wasn't satisfied with letting the justice system handle Brent. Federal prison was clean, safe, predictable. Tyler wanted something more personal, more fitting for a man who had destroyed families and manipulated vulnerable women. Vincent's team had done exceptional work. Within hours of Brent's arrest, they had systematically dismantled every aspect of his life. His bank accounts were frozen, his apartment lease was terminated, and his expensive possessions were already being sold to pay restitution to his victims. But Tyler's revenge went deeper than financial ruin. He had spent weeks studying Brent's psychology, understanding his weaknesses, his fears, his desperate need to be seen as successful and important. Tyler's plan would strip away everything Brent valued about himself and leave him with nothing but the truth of what he really was, a pathetic predator who targeted the families of deployed soldiers. Brent was being held in the Jefferson County Detention Center pending his federal hearing. Tyler used his military connections to arrange a visit, presenting himself as a federal investigator following up on the case. When Brent was brought to the interview room, Tyler barely recognized him. Gone was the confidence, the expensive clothes, the predatory smile. Brent looked exactly like what he was, a frightened man who had finally been caught. "Mr. Kozlow, I'm Special Agent Davidson with Military Criminal Investigations." Tyler used the same false identity he'd employed when meeting Brent at the restaurant. "I need to ask you some questions about your operation and specifically about Amanda Kozlov." Brent shifted nervously in his chair. "I've already talked to the FBI. I'm not saying anything else without my lawyer." "That's your right, of course. But I thought you might be interested to know that Amanda has been arrested for child abuse. Apparently, she was caught on video torturing her 9-year-old son." Tyler watched Brent's face carefully. He was looking for any sign of remorse, any indication that Brent felt responsible for what had happened to Lucas. Instead, he saw only calculation and self-interest. "That has nothing to do with me. I never told her to hurt the kid." "But you knew about it, didn't you? You were in the house when it happened." Brent's eyes darted around the room, looking for escape routes that didn't exist. Sometimes Amanda got frustrated with the boy. Kids can be difficult enough to justify dragging him barefoot into freezing snow. "I wasn't involved in any of that. Whatever Amanda did to her kid, that's on her." Tyler felt his composure slip slightly. Even facing federal charges, even knowing his life was ruined, Brent still refused to take any responsibility for the suffering he'd caused. "Mr. Kozlow, let me share something with you." Tyler pulled out his phone and played the audio recording from their restaurant meeting. Brent's voice filled the room. "The kid's not really part of the equation. Amanda's made it clear she wants a fresh start. Kids can be complicated." Brent's face went pale as he heard his own words. "You knew Amanda was planning to abandon her son. You encouraged it. You helped plan it. I never said she should hurt him. But you didn't care if she did, as long as it served your purposes. You manipulated a vulnerable woman, isolated her from her support system, and turned her against her own child. Also, you could make money and satisfy your pathetic ego." Tyler leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Do you know who Amanda's husband is, Brent?" "Some soldier. She said he was deployed. Master Sergeant Tyler Kozlov. 20 years Special Forces. 3 combat tours. A man who spent his adult life protecting families like his own from predators like you." Tyler watched the recognition dawn in Brent's eyes, followed immediately by fear. I'm the man whose family you destroyed. I'm the father of the child you helped torture, and I'm here to make sure you understand the full scope of what you've done." Brent tried to stand, but Tyler remained seated, radiating the kind of calm menace that came from years of controlling life-and-death situations. "Sit down, Brent. We're not finished talking. I want my lawyer. I'm not saying anything else. You don't need to say anything. You just need to listen." Tyler pulled out a tablet and opened a video file. "This is footage from your apartment, recorded over the past 6 weeks. Vincent's people have been very thorough." The video showed Brent in his apartment with Amanda, planning their escape to Montana. But it also showed something else. Brent's casual disregard for Lucas's welfare, his laughter when Amanda described punishing the boy, his encouragement when she talked about leaving Lucas behind. "You see, Brent, I needed to understand who you really were before I decided what to do with you. I needed to know if there was any decency left in you, any remorse for what you'd done." Tyler paused the video on a frame showing Brent laughing while Amanda described Lucas crying during one of her punishment sessions. "There isn't." Tyler put the tablet away and looked directly into Brent's eyes. "So now you're going to learn what happens when you hurt the family of someone like me. You can't threaten me. There are guards, cameras. I'm not threatening you, Brent. I'm explaining your new reality." Tyler's smile was colder than a January morning. "Federal prison is going to be very educational for you. See, most of the men in there have children of their own. They have very strong feelings about people who hurt kids. I never touched the boy. No, but you enabled his abuse. You encouraged it. You plan to profit from it. That makes you guilty in ways that matter more than legal technicalities." Tyler stood and walked to the small window in the interview room. I've made sure that every inmate in whatever federal facility you're sent to will know exactly what you did. They'll know you're the man who manipulated a soldier's wife into abandoning her child. They'll know you laughed while that child suffered. Brent's breathing was becoming rapid and shallow. You can't do that. That's a death sentence. Maybe, or maybe you will just spend the next 20 years learning what it feels like to be powerless and afraid. Maybe you'll experience a fraction of what my son felt every day while you were destroying his family. Tyler returned to his seat and leaned forward. But here's the truly beautiful part, Brent. Even if you survive prison, even if you somehow make it through your sentence, your life is still over. I've made sure that everyone in your hometown knows what you did. Your parents, your siblings, your old friend from college. They've all received packages containing evidence of your crimes. Brent's face crumpled as he realized the full scope of his destruction. I've also arranged for certain information to be shared with your victims' families. You remember them, don't you? The other military wives you manipulated and blackmailed? Their husbands are very interested in meeting you when you get out of prison. Tyler stood and straightened his jacket. You see, Brent, when you decided to target military families, you made a fundamental miscalculation. You thought we were weak, distracted, easy prey. You forgot that we're trained to protect what we love and destroy what threatens it. Tyler walked to the door, then turned back one final time. My son will grow up safe and loved, surrounded by people who would die to protect him. Your victims will heal and move on with their lives. But you'll spend every remaining day of your existence paying for what you've done. And you'll never, ever forget the name Tyler Kozlov. As Tyler left the detention center, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. Brent's fate was sealed. He would face both the justice system and the rougher justice of men who understood the sacred nature of family. But Tyler's work wasn't finished yet. He still had to rebuild his relationship with Lucas to help his son heal from the trauma inflicted by the people who should have protected him. That would be the hardest battle of all, and the most important victory. Chapter 7. Reclaiming his son. Tyler's sister Jennifer had done exactly what he'd asked. When he arrived at her Denver home, Lucas was safe, clean, and for the first time in months, genuinely smiling. Jennifer had always been Lucas's favorite aunt, and her warm, stable household was exactly what the boy needed while his world was rebuilt around him. But Tyler could see the damage in his son's eyes, a wariness that hadn't been there before his deployment, a way of flinching at sudden movements or loud voices. The boy Tyler had left 9 months ago had been confident and outgoing. The son he was reclaiming was quiet, careful, afraid to take up too much space or ask for too much attention. "How's he been?" Tyler asked Jennifer privately while Lucas played with his cousins in the backyard. "Better each day, but still fragile. He asks about Amanda constantly. He's confused why his mother isn't coming to see him. And he's terrified that you're going to leave again." Tyler watched his son through the window, noting how Lucas kept glancing back at the house, making sure Tyler was still there. "What have you told him about Amanda?" "The truth, age-appropriately. That his mother is sick and has done some things that hurt him, and that she needs to get better before she can see him again." "I haven't told him she might never get better." Tyler nodded. Lucas deserved honesty, but he was still just 9 years old. Some truths would have to wait until he was older and stronger. "In the legal situation?" Jennifer's expression darkened. "Tyler, the prosecutor wants to use Lucas as a witness in Amanda's criminal trial. They need his testimony to prove the pattern of abuse." Tyler felt his jaw clench. "No, absolutely not. My son has been through enough without having to testify against his mother in court. The DA says it might be necessary for a conviction. Then they'll have to find another way. I won't put Lucas through that trauma." Tyler's phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer. Family court hearing scheduled for Monday. Full custody hearing. Amanda's attorney is requesting supervised visitation rights. Tyler showed the message to Jennifer, who shook her head in disgust. After what she did to him, her lawyer is arguing that she was under Brent's influence, that she's not fully responsible for her actions. They're claiming she deserves a chance at redemption. Tyler looked out at his son, who was finally laughing as he played with his cousins. Lucas deserved better than having to worry about when his abuser might return his life. That evening, Tyler sat with Lucas on Jennifer's back porch, watching the sunset paint the Rocky Mountains in shades of gold and purple. It was the first time they'd been alone together since Tyler's clandestine visit to Lucas's bedroom weeks earlier. "Dad." Lucas's voice was small, uncertain. "Yes, buddy. Are you really staying home now? For real this time?" Tyler turned to look at his son, seeing the desperate hope and lingering fear in the boy's eyes. "Yes, Lucas. I'm done with deployments. I'm going to be here every day from now on. But what if the Army needs you? The Army has enough soldiers. You only have one dad." Tyler put his arm around Lucas, feeling the boy relax slightly against his side. "I'm sorry I wasn't here when you needed me most. It wasn't your fault. You were fighting bad guys. Sometimes the worst bad guys are the ones we trust most." Tyler chose his words carefully. "Lucas, I need you to understand something. What your mother did to you wasn't your fault. None of it. Not the shouting, not the punishment, not the things she said. You did nothing wrong." Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "I ruined her life." Tyler felt his heart break all over again. "Oh, buddy. No, you didn't ruin anything. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You're smart and kind and brave, and I'm proud to be your father every single day." "But Mom said," "Your mother was sick when she said those things. Sometimes when people are sick, they say things they don't mean, things that aren't true." Tyler paused, struggling with how much truth a 9-year-old could handle. "And sometimes people who are supposed to protect us don't do a very good job of it." Lucas was crying now, quietly, the way children cry when they've learned that showing pain brings more pain. "I missed you so much, Dad. And when Mom got angry, I wish you were there to make her stop." Tyler held his son while the boy cried out months of fear and confusion and pain. This was the real crime. Not just the physical abuse, but the theft of Lucas's innocence, his trust, his belief that the world was a safe place where parents protected their children. "I'm here now, Lucas, and I promise you, nobody will ever hurt you like that again. Not while I'm alive." "What about Mom? Is she coming home?" This was the conversation Tyler had been dreading. Lucas needed to know the truth, but he also needed to feel safe and loved. "Lucas, your mother did some things that were very wrong. She hurt you, and that's not okay. So she's going to have to go away for a while and get help." "For how long?" "I don't know, buddy. Maybe a very long time." Lucas absorbed this in the way children do, accepting information they don't fully understand because the adult they trust is explaining it to them. "Will you get in trouble for taking me away from her?" "No, son. It's my job to protect you. That's what fathers do." Over the following days, Tyler began the delicate process of rebuilding his relationship with his son while also preparing for the legal battles ahead. Amanda's attorney was indeed arguing for supervised visitation, claiming that she had been manipulated by Brent and deserved a chance to make amends. Tyler's response was uncompromising. In his statement to the family court, he wrote, "My son has already suffered enough at the hands of his mother. She made conscious choices to abuse him, to prioritize her relationship with her lover over her child's welfare, and a plan to abandon him entirely. These were not momentary lapses in judgment, but a sustained pattern of child abuse that lasted months. I will not allow my son to be further traumatized by forced contact with his abuser, regardless of any claimed rehabilitation." The hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. Tyler planned to be ready with evidence that would make it impossible for any judge to grant Amanda access to Lucas. But he also knew that family courts often favored reunification, even in cases where it wasn't in the child's best interest. Sunday night, as Tyler tucked Lucas in a bed in the guest room at Jennifer's house, his son asked the question Tyler had been expecting. "Dad, do you think Mom ever really loved me?" Tyler sat on the edge of the bed, looking into his son's eyes that looked so much like his own, but carried pain no child should have to bear. "I think your mother loved the idea of you, Lucas. But love isn't just a feeling. Love is action. Love is protection. Love is putting your child's needs before your own wants. And your mother forgot how to do those things. Do you think she'll remember?" Tyler paused, weighing honesty against hope. "I don't know, buddy. Maybe someday. But even if she does, it doesn't change what happened. And it doesn't mean you have to forgive her or trust her again. Is it okay if I don't want to see her?" "It's absolutely okay. You get to decide who you want in your life. That's your choice, and I'll support whatever you decide. Lucas seemed to relax at this, as if he'd been given permission to feel what he'd been feeling all along. Dad, I love you. I love you too, son. More than all the stars in the sky. As Tyler turned off the light and headed for his own room, he felt a resolve settle in his chest like armor. Tomorrow, he would face Amanda in court for the first time since his return. She would try to portray herself as a victim, to claim that she deserved another chance. Tyler would make sure the judge understood that some chances, once squandered, are never offered again. And some damage, once done, can never be undone. Lucas deserved better than a mother who had to be court-ordered to love him. He deserved a life free from the fear that the person who was supposed to protect him might hurt him again. Tyler would make sure he got exactly that. Chapter 8. The Final Judgment. The Jefferson County Family Courthouse was a modern building of glass and steel that somehow managed to feel both imposing and sterile. Tyler arrived 30 minutes early, wearing his dress uniform with every ribbon and medal he'd earned in 20 years of service. The symbolism was deliberate. He wanted everyone in that courtroom to see exactly who they were dealing with. His attorney, Tom Bradford, met him in the hallway outside Courtroom 3. Tom was a former Army Ranger who'd left military service to specialize in family law, particularly cases involving military families. He understood the unique challenges soldiers faced and the predators who targeted their families. "How are you holding up?" Tom asked. "I'm ready. Is Lucas safe at Jennifer's house?" "I've arranged for the court to review his video testimony instead of requiring him to appear in person. No 9-year-old should have to face his abuser in court." Tyler nodded, grateful. Protecting Lucas from further trauma was more important than any legal victory. "What's Amanda's strategy?" Tom's expression darkened. "Her attorney is claiming she was psychologically manipulated by Brent Coslow. They're arguing that she was essentially brainwashed into abusing Lucas and that she deserves supervised visitation to rebuild her relationship with her son. And her criminal charges? She's pleading guilty to child endangerment in exchange for a reduced sentence. 18 months in prison, 3 years probation. Her attorney thinks a guilty plea will show remorse and improve her chances in family court." Tyler felt his jaw clench. 18 months for torturing a child wasn't justice. It was a plea bargain designed to minimize consequences. "Tom, I want you to understand something. Amanda will never have access to my son again. Whatever it takes, whatever legal maneuvers we need, whatever appeals we have to file. She gave up her right to be Lucas's mother when she chose to abuse him." Tyler, family courts lean heavily toward reunification. Judges believe children benefit from relationships with both parents, even when those relationships are complicated. There's nothing complicated about child abuse. She hurt him. She planned to abandon him. And she showed no remorse until she got caught. That's not a complicated situation. That's a dangerous person who shouldn't be around children. At 10 a.m. sharp, they entered Courtroom 3. Tyler immediately spotted Amanda, sitting at the defendant's table with her attorney, a thin woman in an expensive suit who specialized in defending abusive parents. Amanda looked different, thinner, paler, her hair shorter and darker. She was clearly trying to project an image of remorse and vulnerability. When Amanda saw Tyler enter in his dress uniform, her face went white. They hadn't seen each other since before his deployment, and the man she was looking at now was nothing like the husband she remembered. Tyler's expression was cold, controlled, implacable. This wasn't the man who'd once loved her. This was a soldier who'd identified a threat to his mission. Judge Patricia Williams was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd been handling family cases for over 20 years. Tyler had researched her background extensively. She was fair but tough, and she had little patience for parents who endangered their children. Amanda's attorney spoke first, painting a picture of a vulnerable woman who'd been manipulated by a sophisticated predator. She described Brent's psychological manipulation, his isolation tactics, his financial control over Amanda's life. She argued that Amanda had been as much a victim as Lucas, and that separating them permanently would only compound the trauma. "Your Honor, My client was systematically manipulated by Brent Kozlow over a period of months. She was isolated from her support system, financially controlled, and psychologically abused. The actions she took toward her son were the result of this manipulation, not her true character. Tyler listened to this defense with growing disgust. Amanda was sitting 20 feet away, and not once did she look in his direction or ask about Lucas's welfare. Even now, even facing the loss of her son, she was focused entirely on herself. Tom Bradford's opening statement was surgical in its precision. Your Honor, Master Sergeant Tyler Kozlov served his country faithfully for 20 years, including 3 combat deployments. He trusted his wife to care for their son while he served overseas. That trust was not only violated, it was weaponized against the very child she was supposed to protect. Tom played the video of Amanda abusing Lucas, and Tyler watched the judge's face as she witnessed the raw cruelty of dragging a 9-year-old child barefoot into the snow. Judge Williams's expression grew harder with each passing second. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment, Your Honor. This was a sustained pattern of child abuse that lasted months. The defendant verbally abused her son, physically endangered him, and planned to abandon him entirely. She chose a relationship with her lover over her child's welfare at every opportunity. The next 2 hours were a parade of evidence that painted a devastating picture of Amanda's choices. Dale Morrison testified about what he'd witnessed and recorded. Dr. Frost, facing his own legal troubles, testified about Amanda's plans to use surgery to erase all evidence of Lucas's birth. Patricia Hendricks, as part of her plea agreement, testified about her daughter's escalating abuse and her own role in enabling it. But the most damaging testimony came from Amanda herself. Under cross-examination, Tom Bradford systematically dismantled her claims of being a victim. Mrs. Kozlov, you testified that you were manipulated by Mr. Kozlow, but you chose to accept his financial support for your mother's gambling debts, correct? He was helping my family. You chose to begin a sexual relationship with him while your husband was deployed, correct? I was lonely and confused. You chose to bring Mr. Kozlow into your marital home, where a 9-year-old son lived, correct? Brent was helping around the house, and you chose to drag your son barefoot into the snow while Mr. Kozlow watched from inside the house, correct? Amanda's composure finally cracked. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Lucas was acting out, being defiant. I was trying to manage everything alone while Tyler was gone. So your solution was to abuse your child? I wasn't abusing him. I was trying to teach him consequences. Tom played the audio of Amanda telling Lucas she should have aborted him. The sound of her own words, her own cruelty, seemed to shock Amanda into silence. Mrs. Kozlov, when you told your son you should have aborted him, were you teaching him consequences, or were you expressing your true feelings about his existence? Amanda couldn't answer. The truth was written across her face. In that moment, caught on video for all time, she had meant every word. Tyler was called to testify last. He spoke quietly but firmly about discovering the video, about his investigation into Amanda's plans, about finding his son traumatized and afraid. Your Honor, I've spent 20 years defending families like mine from those who would harm them. I never imagined the greatest threat to my son would come from his own mother. Tyler looked directly at Amanda for the first time since entering the courtroom. The woman I married, the woman I trusted with my child's life, doesn't exist anymore. She was replaced by someone who could watch a 9-year-old boy suffer and feel nothing but annoyance. That person should never be alone with a child again. Judge Williams recessed for lunch to consider her decision. When court reconvened at 2 p.m., her verdict was swift and final. After reviewing all evidence and testimony, this court finds that Amanda Kozlov poses a continuing threat to the physical and emotional welfare of her minor child. Supervised visitation is denied. Parental rights are hereby terminated. Tyler felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he'd been carrying since the day he'd first watched that video. Lucas was safe. Legally, permanently, finally safe. Amanda's scream of anguish echoed through the courtroom as the finality of the judge's words hit her. She had gambled everything on a new life with Brent, and she had lost more than she'd ever imagined possible. As Tyler left the courthouse, he felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory. Justice had been served, but the cost had been enormous. A family had been destroyed, a child had been traumatized, and lives had been ruined by choices that could never be undone. But Lucas was safe. And for Tyler, that was the only victory that mattered. Chapter 9. New Beginnings. 6 months later, Tyler and Lucas were building a tree house in the backyard of their new home in Colorado Springs. Tyler had purchased a modest ranch house in a quiet neighborhood with excellent schools and neighbors who understood the value of privacy and peace. Lucas was different now, older in some ways, but slowly rediscovering the joy and confidence that had been stolen from him. He laughed more often, asked questions without fear, and had stopped flinching when adults raised their voices. The healing was slow but steady, guided by a skilled child psychologist who specialized in trauma recovery. "Dad, do you think the roof is strong enough?" Lucas asked, examining Tyler's handiwork with the serious expression he'd developed when concentrating on important matters. "Let's find out." Tyler climbed up and tested the structure, bouncing slightly on the wooden platform. "Feels solid to me. What do you think?" Lucas climbed up to join his father, his movements more confident than they'd been months earlier. From their perch 12 feet off the ground, they could see most of their neighborhood and the mountains beyond. "I like it up here," Lucas said. "It feels safe." Tyler understood what his son meant. Height meant visibility, control, the ability to see potential threats approaching. It was a warrior's instinct, and Tyler felt a mix of pride and sadness that his 9-year-old son had already learned such lessons. "It's your space, buddy. Nobody can come up here unless you invite them." They worked in comfortable silence for another hour, Tyler teaching Lucas how to use tools safely, how to measure twice and cut once, how to take pride in building something with your own hands. These were lessons Tyler's own father had taught him decades earlier, and passing them on to Lucas felt like completing a circle. Tyler's phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Dinner at my house Sunday?" The kids missed their cousin. "Aunt Jennifer wants to know if we want to have dinner at her house Sunday," Tyler told Lucas. "Can we? I miss playing with Tommy and Sarah." "Of course. Family dinner sounds perfect." Lucas smiled, and Tyler marveled at how much more frequent those smiles had become. His son was healing, slowly but surely, from wounds that should never have been inflicted. That evening, after Lucas had gone to bed, Tyler sat on his back porch with a beer and reviewed the latest updates from Tom Bradford. Amanda had been released from prison after serving 14 months of her 18-month sentence. She'd immediately violated her probation by attempting to contact Lucas at school and was now facing additional charges. Brent Kozlow was serving his federal sentence at a maximum security facility in Texas. Vincent's Information Network had confirmed that Brent's time in prison was proving as unpleasant as Tyler had predicted. Men who hurt children weren't welcome in any prison population. Patricia Hendricks had completed her community service and was living in an assisted care facility in Nebraska, far from Colorado and any temptation to interfere in Lucas's life. Her gambling addiction had been replaced by an addiction to prescription medications, and she spent most of her days in a pharmaceutical haze that kept her from dwelling on the granddaughter she'd lost through her own choices. Tyler felt no satisfaction in their suffering. Their punishments were simply consequences as natural and inevitable as gravity. Actions had results, choices had costs, and people who hurt children faced the judgment of those who protected them. Dr. Frost had lost his medical license and was working as a medical supply salesman, his career destroyed by his willingness to enable predators. His cooperation with authorities had kept him out of prison, but his reputation was ruined beyond repair. Tyler's own healing was more complex. The guilt of being absent when Lucas needed him most would never fully fade. But he'd learned to channel that guilt into positive action, being the father Lucas needed now, building the life his son deserved, creating a safe space where trust could slowly be rebuilt. Lucas's therapy sessions were going well. Dr. Sarah Chun was a specialist in childhood trauma who'd helped Lucas understand that his mother's abuse was never his fault, that adults who hurt children are responsible for their own choices, and that being afraid of someone who hurt you was normal and healthy. Lucas is remarkably resilient, Dr. Chun had told Tyler during their last meeting. He's processed most of the immediate trauma, and he's developing healthy coping mechanisms. The key now is maintaining stability and consistency in his environment. Tyler had committed to providing exactly that. He declined offers to return to active duty, instead taking a position with a private security company that kept him in Colorado and available for every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every bedtime story Lucas needed. Some evenings, like tonight, Tyler would find himself standing in Lucas's doorway, watching his son sleep peacefully in a bed surrounded by books and toys and all the normal things that fill the child's room. No more hiding under covers with flashlights. No more crying himself to sleep. No more flinching at every sound from downstairs. This was victory, not the destruction of his enemies. That had simply been necessary justice. Victory was Lucas sleeping safely, laughing freely, trusting that tomorrow would be better than today. Tyler's phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. The caller ID showed Vincent Torino's number. "Tyler, how's retirement treating you?" "It's not retirement, Vinny. It's just a different kind of mission. The most important kind." "How's the boy?" "Getting stronger every day. He's going to be fine." "Good. Listen, I know you're focused on being a father now, but if you ever want back in the game, I got clients who could use someone with your particular set of skills." Tyler looked through the window at Lucas's bedroom, where his son slept under a constellation of glow-in-the-dark stars they'd put on the ceiling together. "Thanks, but my fighting days are over. I've got everything I need right here." "Fair enough. But Tyler, if anyone ever threatens that boy again, you call me. Some people only understand one kind of language, and you and I speak it fluently." Tyler smiled grimly. "That's a conversation I hope we never have to have." "Me too. But if we do, I'll be ready." After ending the call, Tyler walked to Lucas's room and stood in the doorway for a moment, listening to his son's peaceful breathing. Tomorrow they would finish the treehouse. This weekend, they would have dinner with Jennifer's family. Next month, Lucas would start Little League Baseball, something he'd wanted to do before Amanda's abuse had destroyed his confidence. These were the victories that mattered, not the destruction of enemies, but the building of a life worth protecting. Tyler had learned that the greatest revenge against those who tried to destroy his family was simply refusing to let them succeed. Lucas stirred in his sleep and murmured something Tyler couldn't quite hear. But then, clear as a bell, came two words that made Tyler's heart swell with pride and love. "Love you, Dad." Tyler smiled and whispered back, "Love you too, son. Forever and always." The war was over. The healing had begun. And in the end, love had won. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.